Welcome back to the Snap Count on Big Play Sports Network, presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Trai Essex, and this is my quarterback and yours, Mr. Charlie Batch. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Fantastic. You can subscribe to us on YouTube under Big Play Pittsburgh. Follow us on IG under Big Play Pittsburgh as well as on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, under Snap Count Show. You can also find us. We are made for TV now, Charlie. We have the face for the big screen, Sportsnet Pittsburgh on DirecTV channel 659 and on Comcast 843. Man, we got a lot to get into for this show. Obviously, it is Victory Monday, right? 21-14, baby. We won yesterday. That's awesome. But also a lot of stuff going on in the league. Is Daniel Jones for real? Is CJ Stroud? Can he recover? But first, we got to get over to those Steel City headlines, and they are brought to you by Fairway Chevrolet GMC. Whether you're in the market for a truck that's heavy duty, built for work, or a real head turner, Fairway Chevrolet GMC has you covered. With clear upfront pricing, unmatched inventory, and a team that works to earn your business, Fairway Chevrolet GMC is the place to go. Trucks, SUVs, great pricing, no nonsense. That's the fair way. All right, Chuck. It was not the prettiest of games, but we got out of there with a victory. 21-14. We won on a nice touchdown to Carson Wentz at the end of the game. Defense, big story, 5 turnovers, 5 takeaways, which were absolutely critical. But before we get over to that side of the ball, on the offense side of the ball, what is your biggest takeaway from this game?
Defensively, they were able to make stops when it needed. When you get to that bend, not break mentality, especially when they put on a 15 and a 17-play drive, you were still able to defend every blade of grass. And that's what Mike Tomlin always talks about, no matter where you are in that field, going out there making a play. And when you're able to do that, but ultimately, giving that ball back to your offense and hopefully they get the chance to score in the manner that the Steelers did, you got to figure out a way to come out with a victory. They did it. So kudos to them.
Yeah. Hadn't won in Foxborough since what? Since we were there, man. 2008.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
It's been a minute since they won. So kudos for coming out of there with the victory, but it was not all peaches and cream, wasn't all hunky-dory. That offense struggled after those first 2 drives. And to be honest, after that first drive, I was hyped. We ran the ball down their throat. Jaylen looked good. The offensive line was coming off the ball. First 2 drives, we got down the field. We were getting chunks of yardage. We were getting our playmakers involved. And then all of a sudden, we stalled. And I cannot put a finger on why that is. Do you know why, Charlie?
See, this is in full transparency. Well, here's why I did not think that they would win this game. I thought after week 3, they would be 2-1, but I thought this was going to be the trap game because I thought the offense of Arthur Smith, with him being offensive coordinator while Mike Vrabel was down in Tennessee, that he would actually have a leg up and be one step ahead of Arthur Smith's offense, which turned out to be true because after that first quarter, as much as the Steelers dominated, that offense was pretty much dormant throughout the rest of the second half until you got to that final drive when they had to put it together. So that is just something that really they're going to have to continue to I know we're approaching the bye week after this Minnesota game, but they're going to have to do some self-evaluating to figure out, okay, why are they getting off to a fast start, which they scored three consecutive games with the opening drive touchdown, which is exciting because it's been non-existent for a long time here. But ultimately, now, how do you start but continue that? And that's something that they're going to really have to dive into.
I tweeted this out yesterday offensively. I do not feel like we have an identity. We have not identified what we do well. We adjust to the defense. They are supposed to adjust to us. It starts up front, but in general, we play a scary brand of offense that doesn't dictate anything. We react. That's kind of been the story the last few years, it seems to me. But this year especially, I would think, under Arthur Smith in his second year at the helm calling plays, that we would have more explosive plays downfield, that we would attack the middle more, and that we would use our wide receivers. I don't think Scotty Miller has a target this year. I know Roman only has 1, and we thought those guys were going to contribute. I don't know if they're barely seeing the field. We haven't seen Ben Skoranek since week 1 when he made that touchdown. And honestly, DK, all that money we paid him, all that assets we gave to Seattle to trade and bring him over, he only had 4 targets and 3 catches for 32 yards. Granted, one of them was a touchdown, absolutely needed it. But what is it about this offense that we cannot identify what we do well and continue to do that and impose our will on the defense?
Right. And one of those, he did have a big pass interference call that won't show up in the stat line as well. That gave the Steelers a new set of downs. But again, to your point, the numbers aren't where they are with that. He has 10 catches, 135 yards on the season. He does have 2 touchdowns. But again, you have to get him more involved. How do you do that? You have to be more successful on first down, but ultimately converting on third down. That's been a challenge that they've had through 3 games this year. And again, when you're that way, you're not really giving your defense a chance to rest by putting these drives together, not able to run the ball. This is what you're going to see. And I know a lot of people are frustrated. I know DK is probably starting to get frustrated. Yes, he's happy about the win. But again, to the point of he wants to contribute here more than what he's currently doing now. So there's going to be conversations, not just with Aaron Rodgers, but also Arthur Smith to say, hey, what do I need to do to be more involved in this particular offense? So that's going to be something that's going to continue to brew. And hopefully you start to see those numbers, catch up to what other people in the league are doing.
So I know the team had to get on the plane right away after this game to get over to Ireland for their game against Minnesota this weekend. But I know film has to be watched this week. The attitude of this team can't be one where it feels like we're coming off a victory. We're not watching film this week with a happy mindset, I think. I also tweeted this out the other day about a win is a win is a win. Granted, we won, but unless it looks like that, all of New England thinks they should have won that game. I saw so much stuff in social media about how they gave the game away, and they literally gave us the ball with the fumbles they had. Pittsburgh wouldn't have been surprised if we had lost. The way we played, that looked like a loss waiting to happen. And regardless, it feels a lot better going into this week 2-1 versus 1-2. I hope it can get worked out, but they got to watch film this week as if they lost.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. I mean, even on the post-game show, we're taking the calls, and people were complaining as if we lost the game. That's how upset people were, and you're starting to see that. But to your point, yes, they have to look at it offensively to say, hey, man, we could have easily have lost this game. So don't sit back here and act like you've made it, you've been there, and you're a made man. No, it's not. No, it's not at all because of the mistakes that were happening. 3 drives only in the first half. That's something that's unacceptable. But yet, again, they were just down, kind of trickling, trickling. I want to say trickling down the road or whatever. But again, it's one of those things to where when you hear Aaron and the big thing, especially in that second quarter, it was one of those things to where he said it felt like we were sitting on the bench for like 20 minutes. I said it was more like 30 because they put a whole drive together. Then you go into the half and yet you come out, you're stagnant in the second half. And then all of a sudden you create the turnover again. You're not being able to pick those things up consistently. Again, it goes a long way of saying, yes, they definitely have to look at this film as if they lost it because there's a lot of work to do.
You know me for a while, Charlie. I'm an optimistic human being. I try to smile every day. My kids, I try to tell them to smile to people. It's been tough this year. If I'm being honest, and let's be truthful, are we a good team right now? A good offense?
We're not a good offense. We're doing enough to win. And that's not sustainable because there's going to be times that, hey, you got to outscore your opponents. And if that's the case, guess what? Okay, we proved that we can put over 30 points in the game. Great. Okay, now when you get to this particular point, yeah, you're able to stop people. You're able to get the conversions and score when needed. But again, you just don't have an identity. You can't turn around, feel comfortable handing the ball off to Jaylen Warren, knowing that he's going to pick up 4 yards or more. Right now, everything is all over the place. And they have to get that going because right now, when you are scouting this team, you don't know what you're preparing for because, again, there's not a threat on either end.
Right. Well,
on paper it is,
right,
but it's not a threat on either end right now based off the results that we're seeing.
Well, I'm going to keep on trying. I'm going to look at this half glass full right now. I know we've been talking about how bad they are. Are there any bright spots? I know Aaron went into 4th place all time career passing touchdown. So that's pretty dope. He needs 20 more to catch Peyton Manning. Do you think he has a chance to get there this year? Do you think he could surpass that number and catch Peyton Manning?
I think he can, but he got to get on a hot streak, right? You need like 4 touchdowns back to back, and then a 3 touchdown, kind of getting you, closer to him. But also congratulations to Aaron Rodgers. Like you said, he passed Brett Favre, an all-time touchdown leader, also passed Phillip Rivers in the all-time yardage, and he's inching closer to Big Ben, there's some stats there. So, as much as we love Ben in that particular manner, but he's ultimately going to pass him at some particular point. But yes, he would have to get hot. at the right time and really putting together a streak of those games. We've seen it happen. We've seen Ben throw 12 touchdowns in 2 games, when he had those back-to-back 6-touchdown performances. So it is something that can happen. But again, he just has to now get into that rhythm and ultimately, catch fire.
I love the general disposition, and we're continuing with this, trying to find the positives of the offensive side of the ball. I love the general disposition of Jaylen Warren, number 30, and how he runs the ball. I think he has the chance to be an elite back if he gets the type of blocking that would require him to have in order to be that. He is explosive whenever he gets his hands on the ball. And one thing that I do love is he's a really patient runner. He follows his blocks for the most part. So that's my positive outlook. Are there any other positive things about this offense that we can build upon?
Yeah, I'm going to start right there with you with Jaylen Warren, because this is a guy, he is very similar to me, comparing him to Willie Parker with better hands. And that's the difference between those two. Both of them are explosive. We know Willie, his resume speaks for itself. But when I look at this young Jaylen Warren, this is a guy who has a 74-yard run under his belt. He ran for 70 in the preseason. We just saw him go for a catch and run for 65 yards last week. So when you have those type of things on your resume, coordinators are scared because they know you are a home run threat.
Right.
And because he is that way, they have to figure out a way to get him more involved. The difference is this is a completely different role than what he's had in the past, because it was a good changeup to Najee Harris. Now you don't have that changeup because Caleb Johnson, that learning curve is a little slower than what they would like to be at this particular portion of the season. So they're not able to bring that big body in there. So essentially, you're bringing in your third down back with Gainwell. But, again, that could be Jaylen easily as a 3-down back. But at some point, you have to spill him to make sure that he is fresh midway to the end of the season.
Yeah, right now we do not have a hammer. We don't have the thunder to Jaylen's lightning. I think Gainwell is just another version of lightning. And we are definitely missing that hammer that Najee was. Also, hope Najee, he had a pretty brutal injury. Godspeed, hope he recovers well. But speaking of Jaylen, he's also our leading receiver, which we talked about before the show is not necessarily a good thing. We haven't seen Scotty Miller. We haven't seen Ben Skoranek. These teams are running too high. What kind of route concepts, put your quarterback hat on for a second, what kind of route concepts can we run to get more of our receivers involved and to get DK more targets?
Yeah, but when you get a 2 shell, at some point you got to be able to turn that ball around and be able to pick 5 and 6 up. That's what you want, because there's one man eliminated from the box. But when you get in those 3rd and long situations, they're playing too high. There's some dagger concepts that you have to have, spot routes, coming in and sitting, attracting that outside linebacker, and then ultimately running an in route behind him to maybe take advantage of the middle of the field that way. Very tough to hit those China routes, right? Your corners are too fast that they can play it, low and then break high and interrupt that and disrupt that corner route. So again, you have to take advantage of the middle, just like other defenses. Offenses are taking advantage of our defenses. When they get a 3rd down, they're hitting right down the middle, one-on-one, either with the linebacker or the safety. We have to take advantage of that because we actually have 2 solid receivers that we know, tight ends that we know that can get into the middle of the field with Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith. They have to continue to take advantage of those type of things, but also allowing, even a Roman Wilson. We haven't talked about him a lot, but to your point, hasn't been targeted much. Those are the guys that they have to be able to work on those inside routes to make sure that you're able to convert on 3rd down, allowing them an opportunity for another set of downs.
All right. And as we know, there's 2 sides to this coin. On the other side of this break, we're going to talk about the defense and what we thought about their performance yesterday.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Garage Beer. No bitterness, no frills, no IPA, just beer-flavored beer. Find local retailers who sell garage beer near you by visiting drinkgaragebeer.com.
Man, we talked about the offense. Now we got to talk about this defense. Now, on paper, it looks like we did exactly what we were supposed to do, and we did. They had less points than us, and at the end of the day, that's what you want. We were able to take the ball away 5 times. But something that I think me and you both had alluded to earlier this year is the time of possession. New England had the ball for 71 plays versus the Steelers 49. Our defense can't seem to get off the field. Why do you think that is?
Again, 3rd down has been an issue. And in the Sunday's game, 4th down was an issue because they weren't able to stop them until the final 4th down of the game. But again, when you go from it on your own 15-yard line, that lets you know we don't believe in what you're capable of doing on the defensive side. And that's what they did, because that could easily change field position in that particular case. But, stat-wise, it didn't line up, but they created the turnovers. And when you talk about it from a defensive perspective, you're always talking about creating turnovers. It could have been more if you sit back and look at it, if Chuck Clark was able to hold on to the football. He had an interception early on the first possession that was in his hands. He drops that. And then later in the game, he ended up having one that was kind of cradled, but it hit the ground first. So that could have been 2 more additional turnovers that they had. But to their credit, they were able to stand up, create those turnovers. All 3 of their running backs, they fumbled the ball. But ultimately, the one that I love is at the end of the half, that big drive that they had. And when everything was going the Patriots' way, all of a sudden, Brandon Echols, he comes up with the big interception. But if you go back and watch the play, that was Drake May's fault, because the motion that he brought in, he didn't allow that receiver to get back out, and it disrupted the play, because that's the flat defender. So when Drake now goes back, flat defender's not there. Brandon is baiting him and saying, oh, look at him. He's open. And then sure enough, Drake throws the ball. He intercepts the pass. So it was a great play by Brandon in that particular situation. Learning lesson for Drake, but that's going to be one for them that they defensively, they're like, hey, continue to create the turnovers to get your offense going. But again, we can't sustain that model.
Yeah, we had some new pieces getting involved in the defense, so there's going to be a learning curve for the likes of Derek Harmon. Jabril Peppers, number 40, we got him from New England, or just recently released from New England. And like you mentioned, Chuck Clark, some new pieces. So it's going to take a while for them to, gel together as a unit. But still, it's sad to say that this is the best run defense that we put up, and we still gave up 119 yards on 29 carries.
Here's the one thing I'm encouraged about, Trey. Derek Harmon.
Okay.
That guy there. And I think he is the reason that we can sit back and talk about as the run defense is not being what we were the first couple of weeks, but it's starting to become lower and lower. And I think that's the main part of it because of Derek Harmon. Whether you agree or not, what you think?
No, I agree. Derek Harmon played well, especially for his first time out. I was concerned I wanted to see his level of conditioning. That's always the big question when you're in there in the trenches. And there is a lot of attrition that builds up throughout camp and stuff. And he wasn't able to participate that last week of camp. And then the first 2 weeks of the season, he practiced. So I was interested to see his level of conditioning. He showed up pretty well. But I'll tell you one thing. I think this experiment, and I don't know if it's an experiment or if it's going to be something that they are sticking to. Keanu Benton at nose, I don't like it. I don't think that he just has enough body mass, and I don't think they're using him as a skill set. I think he's a penetrator, and he has a 2-gap too much, and I don't think he has enough lead in his ass to hold up as a 2-gap nose in our 3-4 defense. What say you?
It's starting to show up because anytime that there's a double team, he's getting pushed back. He's not creating that and pushing back and allowing the linebacker to scrape and get where they need to get to. So, but again, is he playing out of position? Possibly, because, you're trying to make up for the Derek Harmon loss. But now that Harmon is back and when he gets more comfortable, that knee gets stronger, maybe you now slide him into the middle to be able to take on some of those double teams, allowing Benton to get to where he needs to get to, feeling a lot more comfortable with it. So I get it. But now that these pieces are starting to come together, we're going to see. And I think ultimately when I'm paying attention to Derek Harmon, how did his knee hold up? We won't know that, but was there any swelling coming off that game? You add the flight onto it, the altitude, and now he's preparing to get ready for this game, and then you have a longer flight to get ready for in Ireland. So the training staff, they have their work cut out for him to make sure they keep that swelling to a minimum for Derek.
Right. Also, another pleasant surprise on that defense side, we got to see 55. Cole Holcomb started the game over Peyton Wilson, and I thought he had an immediate effect, especially in the run game. We needed that guy that was not afraid to put their face in the fan. Somebody that could square up a lineman, shed blocks, versus the linebackers that we've had so far with Patrick Queen and Peyton are guys that try to elude the blocker. And it was good to see 55. Man, he did not waste any time making an impact when he caused that fumble. Did the coaching staff hear us last week? I know we mentioned that Peyton Wilson and Patrick Queen need to pick it up this week. I thought Patrick had a much better game, and I think a lot of that was because Cole Holcomb was lined up next to him.
Yeah, that too. And I think, and Cole knows the defense a lot better than Peyton Wilson. And those are things that, he's going to now get back in there. And there was a reason why they went out a couple of years ago to sign him in free agency from Washington.
Right.
And he proved that he can play up until his injury. Now that he's back from that injury, he had a solid training camp, and now he is into the mix. And again, that's like a bonus for the Steelers because they didn't necessarily think if he was going to come back. So you add that into the element. Patrick Queen doesn't have to line him up. He doesn't have to worry about anybody else. That allows him naturally with his instincts to just go out there and play. There were a couple of times that he had to kind of move some of the defensive linemen, back into position whenever there was a shift or a motion by the offense. But that's expected. That happens from time to time, especially when that defensive lineman hand is in the dirt. He doesn't get a chance to see everything when it happens. So I'm excited about where they are at this particular point because, yes, we could talk about Cole Holcomb and the impact that he made there. But I think overall in that middleman, there was some plays that won't show up in the stat line that defense knows when they're watching it as a whole. Those are very important plays.
Somebody who was suspiciously quiet on Sunday that we've heard a lot from the first 2 weeks. Number 5, Jalen Ramsey. I didn't see a lot of him yesterday, and that might be a good thing. That might just be a respect thing because the Patriots avoid throwing in his direction. I didn't hear a lot of Stephon Diggs. I'm not quite sure. Was he following Diggs around the whole game?
It didn't look like it because there was a time that I did see Brandon Echols that was on him as well. But again, when you're not hearing safety's name or a corner's name, that sometimes that is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And because that means they're not throwing at him. But if you heard the comments after the game, Brandon Echols, he said, hey, it looked like they were targeting me. And I was ready and prepared for that. So that lets them know that maybe he was the guy that they were throwing after. And that's why you're not hearing Ramsey's name.
Right. Well, we both thought we came out of here with a win, and it was a good thing. Like they have a lot to improve on, especially in the trenches. And the trench report is coming up next after this break.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Lake Spur Marketing, connecting your brand to the right customers. Visit lakespurmarketing.com today.
Charlie, one of these days, I'm going to do this trench report. And I'm going to be smiling because these guys are doing well and they're moving in the right direction. But that is not the case for this game. I thought they actually took a step back this week, with the exception of Broderick. I thought he maintained, which is a good thing for him. But starting with your trench report, starting at the right side.
For people who are new to this, give an update, give your story grade.
This is the trench report where I break down film every morning. Monday morning, I watch the All 22, and I break down the film. Plus for a good play, double plus for a play that ends up in a big play. A minus for obviously a bad play, and a double minus for a sack or a penalty of some sort. So very rudimentary grading, but still effective. It gives you a look or at least an idea of how they performed. And so we're going to start on the right side with Troy Fontanu, worst game of the year. He's young. Everybody's allowed to have a bad game. I've had plenty of them, Charlie. But this was a surprise because I thought that he was trending in the right direction. He got dominated, for lack of a better term. I can't remember the Patriots defender that was over him the whole time, but he gave him issues the entire match. And he gave up a sack. He has a false start in a crucial time of the drive. On that last drive, he had a false start. Thank God we were able to overcome it. But pre-snap penalties have been far and few in between. That's the one positive about the O-line, is that we have not had very many of those. And unfortunately for Troy, he had one at a crucial time. But I don't think that he's going to stay here long. He has too much talent, and the general disposition of him as a football player, I think, is going to improve. He's going to take this personally, and I expect him to jump up because he has a big challenge versus this Minnesota Vikings front. They are active. But he wasn't the only one that had their worst game. Mason McCormick also inside 81%. Now, 85% is what I consider a good grade. 85% or above. Anything below 85%, that means you got some legit film work to do and some technique issues to work out. Nobody got above 85. Isaac got exactly at 85, and that's the highest grade we had this week. Mason, obviously, with the 81%, did not perform up to standard. I thought he got thrown around inside a little bit. The interior of the Patriots D-line gave him and Zach issues. And so that was a little disappointing to see because they both started out great. We both saw that first drive when they were marching the ball downfield, and Jaylen was running right behind that duo of Mason and Zach Frazier. And so A little disappointed in Mason, but I expect him to rebound. Zach Frazier usually has been pretty solid. This is his first sub 85% grade for me this year. No snap issues. Fantastic. But he just looked small out there. He was getting pushed around, didn't get up to the second level a couple of times when he had a clear opportunity to, because Spillane was in the backfield way too much. Robert Spillane, we're very familiar with him. I actually wish he was still in Pittsburgh because he has etched out a pretty good career for himself since he's left Pittsburgh. And so, but we didn't need to see 14 in the backfield as much as he and on as many tackles as he was. And so a little bit disappointed in Zach, but I know he'll pick it up as well. Isaac, we were on him last week. We needed him to pick it up as far as the leadership is concerned a little bit. I think there is some more communication happening with Broderick because, like I said, Broderick is playing a little better. Not world beating by any stretch of the imagination, but he needs Isaac's help in order to reach his full potential. Isaac had some plays. His play left a little bit to be desired, but it was solid. And he was the most solid out of everybody yesterday. Broderick. So I finally saw him throw some hands, Charlie. He threw some hands. And so that's all I wanted to see. And that tells me that he's listening to coaching. He's trying to implement that to his game because, honestly, that's the only thing he's missing. He's an athlete. His footwork is fantastic when he wants to be, and he wants to come off the ball hard. But one thing I will say, and the reason for this grade is not so much his physicalness and missing blocks per se, but he had at least 4 mental assignments that I saw. And that is a knock on him, knock on his film study, not being totally prepared. He's been in the league 3 years now, and he can't have that happen anymore despite him not playing left tackle to start. This is his 3rd year. He can't have those mental assignments, but I will say that it's good that he did not take a step back this week. So that is your trench report for this week. What say you, Charlie?
I have a question for you because I saw earlier today that you were sitting back and you said you had a tweet.
Yeah.
I know we've been talking about the run game, and even they only had 64 yards rushing as a team. But there was a picture that you showed on your tweet that said it frustrates you the moment that you turned on the film from all 22. Can you explain what you were talking about?
Basic stuff. And maybe I'm old. Maybe I'm old school. I've learned from the great Russ Grimm and Sean Coolers of the world, Larry Zerline. And it's basic stuff. I know that the league in general is more shotgun. And as a lineman, when you're in shotgun, you have the choice to be in a 3-point or a 2-point stance. But to start the game, first down, Aaron under center, we're running what we used to call a 25 blunt, which is weak zone, right? And everybody's in a 2-point except for Zach and Mason. And it just drove me crazy. Like that, when you're in the 3-point, you can come off the ball more. You're lower than your defender. It gives you natural leverage. When you're in a 2-point, you automatically get the defender leverage. And so I had to make sure that I wasn't old. I went and looked at other offenses in the NFL to see, do they do something simple as getting a 3-point stance when the quarterback is under center and you have a tight end on your side? Generally speaking, that's what you do. If you're a tackle, you get in a 3-point when the tight end is on your side. And if you're on the open side with no tight end, you have the choice to be in the 2-point and a 3-point. It just comes off as not having the right attitude to come off the ball, in my opinion. And if that play had counted, it would have been a negative play. And who knows what would have happened after that. Thank God we had offsides by Chason over Broderick on that play. And so we started 1st and 5 after that. But Jaylen got tackled in the backfield on that play. And I think something as simple as getting a 3-point and a 2-point consistently, because it was a mixed bag. Sometimes they were in a 3-point, sometimes it was a 2-point. It didn't look like it was play related. Something as simple as that gets everybody on the same page, and it needs to be addressed, in my opinion.
Great explanation. Yeah. I'm one of those ones, especially when it's 1st and 2nd down. I would like to see them in the 3-point stands. 3rd down, completely different story. We get it. 2-point stands, whatever you're comfortable with when it's an obvious passing situation. But when you're in that stand, number one, the pad level is lower. Mm-hmm. You can drive off the football that way, and maybe the running game gets going. But unfortunately, that's not the way that this system has been, and it's been like this for a very long time. But again, now that you're explaining it, you're giving the audience, you're that insight of what that lineman is thinking about versus us watching it from the outside.
And so I was watching the Patriots O-line. Every time there was a tight end on their side, every time they had a tight set, that tackle was in a 3-point stance. And so it's not like it's extinct. Granted, the league is what, 80% shotgun probably. I think we're actually starting to come back to the early 2000s where we're seeing a lot more power. We're seeing more fullbacks being deployed, more tight ends playing fullback. And so I think we're going to get to that emphasis where the power running game is going to come back in a big way. We saw what happened last year with Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley and how successful those teams were because of the run game. We see what's happening in Indianapolis with Jonathan Taylor. And so in order to get Jaylen Warren's full potential, I think something as simple as getting in a 3-point stance on first down will go a long way.
So you just gave your trench report. There's reports out there of people saying that, hey, maybe they played they played really good, and because they didn't give up a sack.
Yeah.
So what do you take on other people that are giving their grades on offensive linemen versus what you're watching?
Sacks lie. Sacks lie all the time. A-Rod got hit quite a few times, and actually there would have been a sack that Troy had given up that caused the fumble that Jaylen recovered, but there was defensive holding, so we were able to continue that drive. So it's not like Aaron didn't get hit. We just didn't have any official sacks. And so I will say as a whole, pass protection was better. Aaron had more clean pockets, but then again, he got rid of the ball like 2 seconds because he was throwing underneath the whole game. He didn't have the time to throw downfield. And so, yes, just like sometimes when a team gives up 4 or 5 sacks, it's not all on the O-line. Just because a team gives up 0 sacks doesn't mean the O-line played well either.
There you go. Enough said.
We'll be back with the rest of the league's news after this. All right, we 3 weeks into this thing, Charlie, and usually around this time, you start to see which teams are starting to separate themselves from the pack. Granted, it's still early, don't get me wrong, but teams are starting to really show who they are. They're starting to form an identity, and they're starting to we're starting to figure out who they are. And so there are 6 remaining undefeated teams: the Bills, the Colts, the Chargers, the Eagles, the Bucks, and the 49ers. Which one of these surprises you the most, and which one do you think can't maintain the current position that they're in?
Yeah, I think two surprises me. The top one is the 49ers. I didn't think that they would be able to pull things off in a manner without Brock Purdy, but they were able to do it. So they got off to it. AFC, it's like I want to say I'm surprised, but I kind of thought that this is the direction that the Chargers would go. But Justin Herbert, again, I think as we went back our original picks, we got to go back and check it from earlier shows on who was going to win that AFC West, and I think I picked the Chargers.
I think you might have. You've been kind of on it lately, Charlie, with your picks, man. I got to give you that.
So that is it. And Chargers right now, they're playing lights out. They have a very favorable schedule. Of course, the way that the Chiefs are, struggling, I know they got their first victory this week. But ultimately, where you are, the Chargers right there, I think that they can maintain. Again, you have a chance to play the Steelers. That's going to be a big game when they do face off. But, man, those are the 2 teams that I'm surprised that way. Now, the team that I don't think will be able to hold it, I just not sold on the Colts right now. I know they're undefeated. I know they're tough. But, again, I just need to see that body of work continuously for Daniel Jones to keep it up. Not to say it can't happen. A change of scenery is what some people need. And it's exactly what you're talking about. Daniel Jones leaving New York, going to Indianapolis. Not much expected of him as he entered and signed as a backup. But here he is as a starter, and he is playing extremely well, man. Hats off to him, and hopefully he can keep it going. But again, I'm just not sold until I see it right now.
Danny Dimes? You not sold on Danny Dimes yet?
Man, I've seen flashes. Don't get me wrong. I have seen flashes, and that's why ultimately the Giants organization, why they sided with him. They took the quarterback, over Saquon. Rightfully so. I understand it. But again, Daniel Jones needed that running game. That's why he was successful in New York. Now you give that to him with Jonathan Taylor. Now you see all the pressure is off of him. Now he's able to just go out there and deliver and throw the football down the field. And it's successful right now for Indianapolis.
I'm sold. I think I'm a little bit sold on the Colts, actually. I think they can maintain it. I had a chance to mosey on over to their film after I got done with my film study just to see if it was a fluke. I was wondering if it was the same situation. You remember the Saints last year when those first 2 games where they scored like 40-something points? I thought, could it look like that? But no, what makes me sold on this team is the one thing that Danny did not have in New York, and that's an O-line. He has Quentin Nelson. He has Braden Jones over at right tackle. He has Rahman, I think that's how you pronounce his name, at left tackle. So they got guys up front that are going to be there for a while protecting him. Quentin Nelson is the best guard in the NFL and has been for a long time. And so that is what gives me a little – and that division is weak. You saw the struggles with – and we'll talk about the Texans here in a second. We see what they did to Tennessee. Jacksonville, they have weapons, but they're not extremely a scary team when you look at them on paper. And so that is what gives me hope that the Colts, and plus we've seen what all across the league, these retreads, so to speak, going to new teams and having success. We see when Geno went to Seattle initially, and now with the Raiders, we see Sam Darnold, right, in Seattle, what he did to us last week. We see what Baker, probably the best one of them all, and Jared Goff, actually, but Baker Mayfield down in Tampa. And so I think the marriage of Danny Dimes and Steichen, I think that's good. I saw what Steichen did with Jalen Hurts when he was in Philly, Carson Wentz. And so he knows how to get the best out of quarterbacks. I just don't think Anthony Richardson had enough there for him to work with.
No, I get it. And it gives a whole new meaning of that first week of November when the Colts come to Pittsburgh. And literally people look at that and say, oh, that's a guaranteed win. Nah,
that's what I thought. I'm telling you, that's what I thought. Not no more.
It'll be a tough one. And of course, we'll be celebrating Super Bowl 40 during that reunion. So the fans are going to be excited about it. But again, there's going to be a lot to celebrate that weekend. So that's going to be one we're circling right there.
If we look like how we look now and Colts look like how they look right now, it's going to be a rough day for the Steelers. But I'm hoping that after the bye week, after this game versus Minnesota, we have a whole month and a few games, a month and a half of games left before we play them. So it's going to be interesting. On the other side, there are 6 teams that are below 500, or that are 0-3, my bad. The Jets, the Dolphins, the Texans, the Titans, the Giants, and the Saints. Is there anything there amongst those teams that tells you that one of them can turn it around?
Yeah, the majority of those teams will be picking at the top of the draft next year. But the one team that's still in Pittsburgh. But you have one of the team that I think that can get around it is going to be the Texans, because it's not a strong division. At some point, maybe you're hoping that somebody knocks off the Colts and it gives them striking distance. Could that division be 8-8 as a division winner hosting a playoff, or 9-8 hosting a division game? Yeah, it's possible. And that gives them hope because they still have that, the division teams to be able to fall back on. So I'm not giving up on the Texans right now.
Okay. Well, our brothers and Big Play Pittsburgh, Big Play Sports, I know they're pretty happy. Cleveland based.
Oh, yeah.
The Browns actually pulled one off, man. And you know what? They pulled it off by kicking a field goal. Now, we play them in the game after our bye week, week 6. Is that Browns defense as good as they looked so far this year? Because they look terrifying.
Yeah, they're legit. I mean, their defense is solid. There's no question about it. And I love the still image that they had in there. The Browns were running. They had a four-man pass rush, and literally you had 3 guys focusing on Myles Garrett. Man, that was hilarious. But that just lets you know the amount of respect that he has and will continue to have in this league. But I think when you look at just the Browns, they're a scary team. And I think the reason why Cleveland is excited this morning, even though they didn't put up a ton of points and whatnot, it's just the fact of there's a lot of people out there that is predicting Green Bay to be the representative of the NFC. Mm-hmm. So to go in and beat that team and at that particular point, it gives them hope. You just hope that it doesn't ignite them enough that they're ready in a couple of weeks as they get ready to play Pittsburgh here in the early portions as they're looking to turn their season around. So again, everybody going to be paying attention to what is the follow-up after they beat Green Bay. But either way, this is a week they can celebrate.
Is the Bengals season over? They just got mollywopped by our upcoming opponent, the Vikings, 48-10. Jake Browning, who I thought performed well in years past when he had to come in for Burrow, laid an egg. And that defense hasn't been strong for a long time, and this year is no different story. But their offense is struggling, and they paid a lot of money for that not to happen. Is their season over with?
I don't necessarily say it's over with because it's always tough. That first game is for the backup to kind of come in. He starts out slow, but more, the more you get up to game speed, your second and third game to generally are a lot better than that first one. So I'm not giving up on them completely, only because they are loaded on offense, even though they're struggling on defense. Again, I just see them picking up, and I think that rhythm is going to happen. And at some point during the season, everybody writing them off, they're going to sit back and turn around and put that card up and say, hey, man, we're playing with house money. Well, we ain't got nothing else to lose. Let's just go out there and let it all on the line. And that's going to be a dangerous team. So you better get them now, because I think they're going to pick up speed come mid-October and November. They're going to be a dangerous team.
All right, well, they didn't look dangerous on Sunday, but they were going against a Vikings team that hung 48 points on them with Carson Wentz at quarterback. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Bengals do after this game, because they got their work cut out for them. But we have to get ready for the Vikings, and we got to preview them on the other side of this break. The Steelers are in Ireland this week. Chuck, I'm surprised you're not there. Over there being the ambassador for the Steelers.
No, actually, I committed on Saturday a year ago. So I was hoping that this game was not scheduled for this weekend. Ultimately, it did, and that prevented me from going.
All right, we got the Vikings and Steelers, and as I previously mentioned, they just beat up on the Bengals 48-10. Some familiar faces over there. You got Brian Flores calling the defense. Jonathan Hargrave is manning the nose tackle for him. They have two of the better defensive linemen in rushing, Jonathan Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel, who had 2 sacks last game. We are coming into this game as a 1.5-point underdog, but something that gives me hope is that this defense, as good as they have been, has given up 138 yards rushing a game. That's where we have to attack them, right? We have to be able to run the ball against the Vikings in order to have any success.
You have to. And I mean, they're stout that way. But again, they've had some leaks that are going on at this particular point. But again, we're not consistent on our end as well. So you look at some of the holes thinking that you could take advantage of. Just like last week, thought, okay, they've given up over 315 yards passing. We didn't take advantage of that. So you just can't assume that it's going to happen in that particular manner. This is why it's important to be successful on first down, to not get you into those third and long situations, because Aaron Rodgers, he has taken 18 hits on the year. And when you look at what the Vikings did last week against the Bengals, they had 9 quarterback hits, 4 sacks. And Ivan Pace Jr., he had 3 hits himself. So you got to turn around now and make sure you are protecting Aaron, because they do get after you. And this is going to be an aggressive defense that the Steelers can't take lightly.
Yeah, on the defensive side of the ball, they're going to be going against, and actually, I was hoping that J.J. McCartney was going to start this game, but they have somebody in Carson Wentz, a veteran in this league, a one-time MVP candidate, first game starting last week in Minnesota, and hung 48 points. And so I think this defense has their work cut out for them. Jordan Mason ran for 116, his first start also, with Aaron Jones going down with the injury. Jordan Mason, who had a lot of success running in San Francisco, showed he still got it, running for 116 yards and 2 TDs. What do we need to do on defense to make sure that we can keep that offense at bay?
Yeah, they're going to have to mix up those coverages. I mean, when you look at Carson Wentz, he didn't have a bad game at all. And sometimes, again, after that first game, you get off to a slow start. He was 14-20, even though he only had 73 yards. He had 2 touchdowns. So that is a winning performance in that particular manner. It looks like they could potentially be getting Jordan Addison coming back off from suspension. So now you're adding another weapon to this arsenal for the Vikings here. Again, they're going to have to clean up some things, because defensively, third down, they are struggling right now, and they have to protect the middle of the field. And right now, there's those leaks that are happening on the defensive side that they have to clean up.
Yeah, and how can I not mention arguably the best wide receiver in the league in Justin Jefferson? And if Addison comes back, that just adds to that arsenal that Carson Wentz has to throw through. They got TJ Hockenson at tight end. And so, yeah, well, like you mentioned, they have to be able to get after the quarterback, and they have to stop the run and make them a one-dimensional team.
And they can't get there and just line up. They're going to have to, mix and match, show some confusion, to mix it up, because if you're just going to sit there and line man-to-man across the board, you're not going to win in this particular manner. But no matter how good our corners are. So that's going to be something that's going to be Terrell Austin is going to have to mix up coverages. I know he brought some double-edged blitzes in the game that was causing disruption there. But again, he's just going to have to make sure that he keeps Carson Wentz off balance and not allow him to step up and deliver, because this guy still has a big arm and he's going to push the ball down the field.
These are the type of games that we need number 5 to step up in. I'm no relishes these moments of going against the top wide receivers. So hopefully we can get JPJ back this week. I know he's been banged up the last couple of weeks. We definitely need to shore up that secondary in order to put pressure on Carson Wentz so that defensive line can get to the quarterback.
They have to. And when you look at, I like where everything is going. TJ had his, 2 sacks. Nick Herbert came around. He contributed in a big way. Of course, Cam Hayward just being Cam. That's what we expect from the All-Pro in that particular manner. But one person that really stepped up that didn't really show up a lot in the stat lines was Daniel Ekuale.
Mm-hmm.
Man, he had a lot of pressure that were going in. And I'm like, wow, 96 is all over the place. And there's one play that happened in the game that made people want to look at, because they're looking at the 4th down play because Brandon Echols actually made the tackle. But 2nd down, he breaks through, causes the pressure. There's a receiver running from right to left. And if he does not cause that pressure, that receiver catches the ball and they may now have the ball at the +20. But because that pressure was created by Daniel, that was something that really doesn't go, not for notice, because other people are paying attention when they watch the film. He has to continue to deliver that way when his number is called as well.
All right, the over-under is set at 40.5. But I'm gonna wait until the other side of this break to get your picks. Your FanDuel picks have been on point, CB. Let's see what you got this week. This week's game preview is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is getting you ready for the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. New customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet $5, and if it wins, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the entire app. You can build parlays, bet player props, ride the live lines, whatever your style, FanDuel has you covered. The NFL season is almost here. The only question is, are you ready to play? Visit FanDuel.com, big play to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Disclaimer, must be 21 plus and present in Pennsylvania. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Restrictions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, like I mentioned, the Steelers open as 1.5 point underdogs, and the over-under is 40.5. First, do we get, what is your call on that, over and under, 40.5?
I'm going under, and I'm going under because this is going to be the first game that both teams play that is going to be under 50 degrees. 50 is only supposed to be the high, but I think ultimately that weather is going to play a factor in it, because it's going to force both teams to adjust what they're doing in the passing game to now have to run the football.
Okay. So, Charlie, you've been on a little bit of a streak 2 weeks in a row now. You have picked the touchdown scorer for the Steelers. Who do you have this week getting a touchdown?
This week, I am going for big Darnell Washington.
Yes.
I think he gets involved in the game plan this week. I think they allow him that opportunity, and I think he shines. I think this is going to be his week. He gets on the board.
Thank you for backing my Mount Washington is going to be my pick every week until he actually scores. So with your luck, Charlie, hopefully he gets across the end zone. His name is now Shaq, right? Isn't this what Arthur Smith has dubbed him? He is Shaq in the post. And we tried to get him one, and he was able to draw that defensive pass interference in the end zone, which was huge for us. We scored the next play on a flip at 9 to Kenneth Gainwell. But yes, Mount Washington is who I'm going with as well. And I think Jaylen Warren gets into the end zone too. All right, CB, episode 8 in the books. How you feeling?
Feeling good, man. This is it. Ireland week, global impact that the Steelers are going to have, man. This is going to be exciting. And, you know, obviously the Rooney family and their Irish ways and the tradition that they have out there, man. This is going to be exciting for them and their family. Excited to see it all come to fruition. This is something that we've talked about for months now, and now it's finally here. And there's going to be a ton of Steeler fans out there. So I'm excited about what's happening this weekend.
Would you eat the fish with the eyes in it?
No. No.
Is that a Scottish thing or an Irish thing? I might be confusing.
To be honest with you, I don't know. And just the way that you explained it to me, I don't care which one it is. The answer is hard. It's a hard no.
All right, subscribe to us on YouTube at Big Play Sports. Follow us on X at Snapcount Show and on Instagram at Big Play Pittsburgh as well. You can follow Charlie at CharlieBatch16 on IG and X, right?
Yes.
As well as TrayDay79 on IG and X as well. Once again, CB, is always great talking to you, brother. Here we go.
Here we go.